All right, they're going now. So welcome to all those that are watching, whenever you're watching, and I hope you're doing well. There's no one on live, so it's just the lovely Amanda and myself. Welcome, Amanda.
Thanks, Shane.
We stopped the recording just before you were on a horse before, so we wanted to stop the recording because if you fell off, it would have been embarrassing for you.
yeah, absolutely. Can't deny it when it's on film.
You can't, and I would have politely shared that.
Yeah, thanks.
I would have said, oh, and I would have just said it got lost. It lost on the internet. It wasn't me. It was the internet took it. How are you today?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Not bad. You?
Yeah, pretty good. I've been pretty busy today. Nick's got me doing quite a few things today. I had some bad migraines for last week, so and then I knocked myself out on Wednesday, so that was embarrassing.
What?
Yeah, I was trying to get the Wi-Fi to work and lifted my head up, and the power box was above my head, and I just fell over, landed on a pillow, fortunately. And yeah, it was funny. I was like lying there, I was a bit dazed. I messaged my fiance and I'm like, this is what's just happened, just in case whatever happens, you never know. And about 15 minutes later, I sort of got to my feet and I was a bit slow for the next 24 hours. That's fair to say.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah,
wow.
You don't need sport to injure yourself at all.
No, you don't.
So, because I had a couple of head knocks in footy last year and I was like, oh, so glad having a year off sport because I won't get injured, but you still get injured.
Absolutely. I mean, same with the horses. I have people that are like walking along on a loose rein after they've done all of their jumping and all of their training, and the horse like either spooks at a bird or just gets too relaxed and trips over and then actually nearly falls on its face and they go head first like you would go down a kid's slide, donk straight into the ground. And then they've injured their neck, they've knocked themselves out. Like, I understand.
How'd you do that? Yeah, I was just walking a horse.
Yeah, I was walking on a loose rein after I jumped 1.60 meters and did all these amazing things, and then I just fell off.
I guess it's when you're most relaxed, you just switch off a little bit. So, I remember a story. A past friend of mine, she was just walking her dogs, and the dogs caught a glimpse of a cat, and they took off, and she was on gravel, and there was a smashed glass bottle on the gravel. And the dogs just pulled her. They were big boxes, and the glass just slashed down her legs, and she couldn't do anything. She just felt the dogs take her for about 15 meters.
Oh my God!
I guess it just shows how like people are so careful with their lives, but you can be doing the most innocuous thing, and things can quickly change. So
isn't it? That's so true, isn't it?
So you got to take. I think you've got to take risks because it doesn't really matter. You'll find a way to hurt yourself.
Numbers up. I agree.
We didn't get you to talk about injuries. Well, they might come up. But so you are a professional equestrian athlete and coach.
Yeah.
And you love it, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I do.
What's it like? What's it? So it's a two-pronged question. What's it like? We're obviously in Melbourne. We are 202 days into lockdown.
Don't even.
Yeah, and we're hopefully not far away, pending numbers, and we won't go into the politics of it all. But we will talk about how has that been for you personally, but also professionally with your job this year.
Well, professionally, the last competition we had was March, and that's essentially the start of our eventing season. And so I didn't actually get to a proper eventing competition. I did a couple of training show jumping events. So the last time I did a cross-country course in a competition was December last year. I don't think I've ever gone that long in my life not actually having competed and done a cross-country round. So that's pretty different. Probably the main difference is that, when you're preparing an athlete, you have a program for it. And I'm so used to month by month, I know exactly what I've got to do, what I'm aiming for, the timing I need to prepare the horses. And that just stopped. And I've got these horses that are sort of the older end of the athlete. So they're like sort of 9 to 13, and like a more mature or senior athlete or high-end athlete, you can't just chuck them in the paddock and go, oh, have a rest, because, they'll get stiff, they'll get injured, whatever. So I've had to keep them in work. And then I've had to sort of try and reinvent what a program looks like weekly for a competition horse that's not going to any competitions.
Yeah.
So they need to be trained, but not, you don't want to put any unnecessary wear and tear on them. So, I've reduced their work from 6 to 5 days. I took out their fitness work. So I wasn't sort of, doing fast work, which, gives them wear and tear, didn't jump as big, but every time, had a lot of therapy. You just got to reinvent it. I've got to have a purpose. Otherwise, as much as I love doing it, you get on and I can't get on every day and be like, oh, what am I going to do? So I have to keep reinventing the purpose, basically.
How's it been for you through this time? I mean, sounds like you've been pretty fortunate to still be able to be in a job somewhat. I'm guessing it's quite dramatically changed, but how have you mentally gone with it all?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster. So initially I had no employment for a few weeks, and a high performance program, Equestrian High Performance, jumped in and helped me with that, which was huge, because all of a sudden, lots of people will attest to when your income's cut and you have absolutely nothing, you just don't know what to do. And then, so the income wise, it's really fluctuated. JobKeeper's been amazing, and then that's gone. So I can't coach. There were a few weeks when I could coach, so I can't even supplement my income with coaching yet. And everyone, luckily, all the clients are desperate to get back to it. So once we're allowed, I'm, hoping that'll be great. But the good thing is that I've still got these horses that I'm passionate about, that I can train and really focus on how I can improve them in the off season. Let's call this the off season. But the tricky thing is just trying to balance it and keep an income going, and keep your purpose going. So it's been really interesting.
I love the word roller coaster, and I also love the word interesting. I have a feeling that someone we both might know very well has probably put interesting into your mind.
Very much so.
So obviously, not obviously to some people, but you are going to, you're even if you didn't have a title ambassador, you are probably seen as that through MyndFit, with the work you've done with Nick. Nick's told me little bits and pieces about you. Almost, he's really proud of you, I'd say. And then obviously listened to you in the podcast as well, and could tell that he was proud of the way that you had grown. And I guess that's where the roller coaster comes into it. How now having done all the work prior to this year on yourself, how much do you think that's helped you deal with the roller coaster that has hit this year?
Oh, hugely. So I think, well, first and foremost, to be able to pause after you get some stimulus, like we all know, through MyndFit, that it's, react or respond. And to be able to, every time something different comes at me, to be able to pause and have a think about it and not just kind of go straight into reaction is probably the biggest thing. And to also understand that when something happens and it's, it's emotionally heightens me, that, that's okay, that's a response that we all have. And it's okay to feel that way, and to voice it and to let it out, and that over time and by working on it, it'll get better every day. And so I kind of accept that I'm going to feel like that, and also to then ask for help, and to workshop it. So that's probably the biggest thing. It's just the ability to pause, the ability to think about stuff, not just start panicking and having an anxiety freak out about it. And what else? I think the asking for help is really huge, because I'm an individual sport person. So we don't have like a football team. It's just me. And my high performance program that consists of a small amount of really amazing people who, if I feel a bit alone, or I'm like, at the moment, I'm really frustrated because I've seen my friends in New South Wales are competing, and one of them's just put out this really good score for the dressage. And I feel like the goddamn Mexican stuck in Victoria, who's, we had to cut all our funding. I can't, I can sort of leave home because I'm a professional athlete to train the horses. There's no competitions. I'm trying to not cost the owners a fortune by having training sessions and stuff that I have to pay for. Like, but I just have to go, it'll be okay. Trust the process, find another purpose. So I think MyndFit has been instrumental into teaching me. Like, I originally went to Nick because I had a split up with a partner of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And everything that I've learned has actually nothing to do with that. It's actually stuff I can put into everyday life for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So, that's actually a really great way. Well, yeah, it's funny, and it's a great way that it's put, because I think so many other people, we all go into any therapist with a problem, what we think is the problem, and we come out going, fuck, that wasn't the problem at all. There's much more to this.
I'm the problem.
Yeah. Which is it's hard to face. It's hard to accept that you're the problem, because then you go down the path of beating yourself up so much. So it sounds like you're as frustrated as you might have been at times, and you're talking about the roller coaster of 2020, which, I guess people look at myself and Nick and anyone who's done a lot of the work on themselves and go, oh, they're just breezing through it. It's like, no, like we are having feelings and emotions and thoughts through this process as well, but we pause, we stop. We say, that's interesting, and then take that I guess that other approach that we never learnt to do when we were younger.
Yeah, and I agree 100%.
And then you assess the situation for what it is. And I think what you were alluding to is everything is impermanent, and at some stage you will be able to train properly again and coach and compete again. But it's just frustrating in the moment because you want to do it now.
Yeah. I try to look at it. Yeah, exactly. Like I've how like this, and I listen to what Nick says too, and he's like, it is what it is, and people are whinging about the weather or the corona, they can't do this, they can't do that, and he's like sort of always encourages us to look for the positives. And so I've really tried to always look for something I can do. So yeah, sure, we're locked down, but I've got an indoor arena, so it doesn't matter how bad the weather is, I can always train my horses, and I've got this beautiful property that I live on, so I've got space, and that's important to my mental health, to be in space, and out in nature. So many positives, but then I kind of feel like I also need to address, and I've got a roof over my head, I've got dogs, I've got family, whatever. The other part of me, which is the athlete, I'm like, that person doesn't feel very content right now. So that part of me, I feel like I need to still address that I can't be like, no, it's all fine, I'll be right. Because there's a big part of me that's like, this is the other part of my life and who I am. And when I get out of bed in the morning and I can't do what I love doing, it's like,
yes,
namaste, come on, inner peace, where are you? Come on, inner peace, I haven't got all day.
I guess it's so important to just be real about that you're experiencing that. Like, everyone's going to go through, we're not trying to tell everyone to stop feeling things or thinking things. It's being able to, I guess, stop acting in such an unhealthy way. But to be able to stop the behavior, you've got to work out where it's coming from, and then go, okay, well, it's coming from this. I understand it now. But it's not, you don't need to change that you've got that belief or whatever. Not necessarily. It's just, I just can't act on it because it's not going to help anyone or help me. I read someone's post before about throwing the blame at everyone, and I'm just like that's not going to help you. Like, no. I get it. I get the frustration. I get the anger. Like, I go through it sometimes day to day, and I get frustrated at his post. So that's my stimulus that I need to work on. But I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, you could have saved yourself 10 minutes of writing that post, because I'm sure it didn't take you 30 seconds. I'm sure you actually probably wrote it out 5 times, and you could have actually just walked away from the laptop and gone and done something which is going to help your day. So it's one of those things where, but as I said, we've all had our moments through this year because we've never experienced this kind of stimulus. We just haven't. And we probably won't ever again in our lifetimes, I wouldn't think.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully, Shane. Never say never. You know?
Yeah, well, I'll say again, if it happens again, everything is impermanent. I got through this once. I'll get through it again.
Mankind has survived because the plague happened, remember, back in the day, and we're all still here.
Yeah,
I know it was a long time ago.
Yeah, we are. I was speaking to someone a while ago, and we're the longest living race on this earth. Like, there's been many others that have come and gone.
Apart from the cockroach.
Well, yeah, you can't kill a cockroach.
No.
They can't kill a cockroach. That's why they freak people out, because you think you've got them, and then 3 seconds later it'll pop its head back over. I swear they know it. They know it. So you briefly touched on when you went to see Nick. When was that? That about 3 years ago? Longer.
A couple of years ago at least, I reckon. I can't think exactly. Yeah, I've done a 12-month program, a 12-week program, and I think I'm halfway through my next maintenance year, where I go every 3 months. So, and then some bits of gaps in between. So that long? Yeah.
So that's close to probably 3-4 years around then.
Two or three. Yeah.
I could have done some research and looked that up, but
so could I. As long as you do the work, who cares?
So, so you're a professional athlete who's got through to the age of early 40s.
Thanks, that's generous.
Well, you wouldn't. Well, that's when you saw Nick. So, and I mean, 40s going on 20 by the sounds of it, if you're a professional athlete. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I mean, that's a pretty brave move to ask for help at an age, and not an older age. It's not that old, especially because I'm catching that age very quickly. So I won't say it's that old, but it's not in your teenagers, it's not in your 20s. It's a lot. I'm guessing it's a lot harder as you get older to actually say, hey, I think I just need a bit of help.
I don't know. It's I suppose being an athlete and involved, like the first time I saw a therapist, I was at the Institute of Sport, the Victorian Institute of Sport, and that was part of your scholarship package, and I would have been in my sort of early 20s. Yep. So I did that, and I found that was pretty helpful. It wasn't on an emotional level, it was very much on a practical level. Like they tell you things like, only work on the things that you can control, don't worry about the other things, i.e. you can't control the weather, so if it's raining, don't worry about that. But that's very practical, very towards your athletic performance. And then I saw another therapist who is actually she's a sort of a friend of mine through the equestrian industry, and she works with Racing Victoria and some of the footy teams, and she's been pretty amazing. So because she was really familiar with the equestrian industry, I saw her for years and years and years about a variety of things in the end. And I went through, like, I had cancer, so I was made sure that I sort of went and saw her a lot leading into some of the surgeries and stuff, and what to do as an athlete when you just can't do anything. You're too sick to do anything. And then I think in coming to see Nick, with this relationship going bust, a good friend of mine is also a MyndFit client, and I was trying my best to get through this breakup, and I just couldn't quite get rid of it. Just didn't work. I couldn't quite be who I wanted to be, and I didn't know how to fix it. And the way my friend would talk to me, we discussed this, I'm like, you're so wise. I like the way you think. Who's this person you see? Because I want to sound like you. And that's how I got onto Nick. And honest to God, it's the first time that it's been like being given a practical handbook of the tools of how to go about, like we were saying before, anything that comes your way. You've got this little book that you open up, and you can flick back through the chapters, because I find Nick's teachings are very systematic, and it all revolves back to, the source of all pain is attachment. And, so I suppose too, being, whether it's a little bit my personality, but also being an athlete, you're always striving to be better.
Yeah.
And my conscientiousness probably, I don't want to be the asshole. And that was the thing I was thinking from this relationship. God, what have I done wrong? I must have been such an asshole. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to go through that pain again. I've got to, want to learn. And if it's really hard, I want to learn what I did wrong so that I can work on that. And honest to God, it's the best thing I've ever done. I wish I'd done it earlier, but, it wasn't the time. The time was, a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how we find something and then we go, I wish I did that earlier, but that's not living in reality again. We quickly, it's I think it's funny because, I was talking about it with someone today, and life works backwards almost. Like
totally. Yeah.
You die with money. You don't have any money through your teenage years when you want everything, and then when you don't want everything, anything, all you want is family and friends. You have all this money, and it works real. You learn all this stuff, and then you die.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, but I think it's, no matter what age you are, it's so important to, I guess, just be content with yourself. I think is probably the true, because we don't want to live our life in pain all the time and hold on to all of our baggage in a painful way.
Gets pretty toxic.
Yeah. You talked about Nick's, I guess. Would you describe what Nick teaches as common sense?
Totally. Yeah.
But it's not that common.
Oh, no way it isn't. Honest to God, I would walk into those sessions thinking, there's this and there's that and then that and then that. And then I'd walk out just going, that was so easy. And I'm like, oh God, I just didn't even think that way. But, he does. He really sort of funnels your thoughts and goes, here you go. That's all you need to think about is that. And all of a sudden it becomes really, I'm not going to say it becomes really easy. The pathway is so much easier to understand.
Yeah.
Rather than, it's like I said to him once that his going into his office, it was like there was a flywire screen that acted like a bullshit filter. And that's what I reckon it is. It's just you go in there and all the bullshit gets filtered off by the flywire. And by the time you go out again, you only carry what you need. You leave all the shit for him to sweep out. You must have a really big rubbish can out the back.
Yeah, I spend most of my days cleaning up all the thoughts and stuff that pour out of people's heads. So yeah, another Shane, aisle 3. I love you say that, the bullshit filter. I'm gonna walk in thinking there's a screen as I'm walking in. I have to open and
it can be like when you walk through, or bullshit be gone. He'll probably spray you with spray and wipe too. Bullshit spray.
Well, it's a common theme every time I speak to someone. They're like, we haven't experienced this before because he doesn't let me sit in my own shit. Basically, he'll stop me. He'll call me out and say, "You're doing it again. You're running away. You're going with your mind. Let's pause it. Let's stop it. Work out why you're doing it." And it's that in itself. If we then walk away and we've got to implement that within our own lives, like he can't do that 24/7 for us. It's like when someone sees a PT or with your clients, when you're coaching, they're not just going to have one session and be able to go and ride in the Olympics. They need to be consistently training in with you and without you. And that's what I think Nick basically forces, but he lets clients know, I can't do anything for you unless you go out and do it yourself. Like, you'll be at the same spot you are now as in 12 weeks, and that's not what you want. So,
100%.
What was your mindset? So we spoke. I guess we spoke a little bit about your mindset. We might touch a little bit more on it in terms of how was the mindset, thinking about yourself going into seeing Nick, and how long did it take to change?
Well, I wasn't aware of how big an ego I had, nor exactly what the ego was. So, I think now I'm much more aware of when the ego is taking the ego mind what you tell yourself. So the little voices in your head, when they're your ego talking, I can now recognize that way easier. And I can sort of go, no, that's not a thought that you need. And that's, yeah, exactly. So I now see that. And I cringe. Even that podcast I did, I'm like, oh my God, I really hope I've grown from then, because that was embarrassing. Anyway, so yeah, I think definitely that. Yeah, and totally being responsible for your own stuff. Nick said to me once, like, once you accept that that things are your inner happiness is your own responsibility, it actually is super empowering. Yeah. Because you realize that you're not at the mercy of someone else. You're actually at the mercy of, all your answers come from here. And it's sort of hard to understand at the start, because I'm like, but I don't know what's in here. I don't have any tools. How can I have the answers? But the more tools you gather, you suddenly do realize, and being patient too. So just not wanting to solve things straight away. So, when we're talking about when you get some stimulus and then you have an anxiety attack and a freak out about it, and then you need to have the answers now. Well, I do. And then I don't have the tools, and then I'd be like, Nick, help. Whereas now I think I said to him last time I spoke to him, I had a bit of a problem, and I didn't ring you. I actually managed to let it. I think I've solved it. So that's I think that's why we go. It's not that it's because I don't need to talk to him or anyone else, is it? It's because you can now navigate through your own life and manage to kind of go over the bumps and the hurdles and feel more content about it, and feel definitely more empowered. And also, not like right now where I've got verbal diarrhea, I have learned to be ears and to shut up, which is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Listen with the intent.
2 ears, one mouth.
Yeah, listen with the intent to understand, not to respond.
Yeah, that's a big thing, I think, with the ego as well. And also on that note, being a coach, I felt everyone expected me to always have the answers. So every time I'm, riding a horse or whatever, I live my life being asked things and being expected to be the expert. And so I kind of found that I was going and, being a bit like that around all my friends. And now I'm like, oh, shut up. How about you be humble? Like, it's great not to know anything. Just go learn something. Be a student. Just shush.
I'll be honest. I probably went through something similar about 7 weeks ago, where I just wanted to help everyone. I just saw all this suffering around me, and I'm like, just help the universe. You have all the answers. And Nick's like, no, that will cause more problems. You need to just, if someone asks you, help, but otherwise shut the fuck up, basically.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, but in saying that, like, the ego is such an amazing thing, and I'll touch on it here, but you don't get to the Olympics if you don't have some kind of I love the word like arrogance, because I think there's two kinds of arrogance, and I think a sports woman or man has to have some arrogance within. They have to know they're good at it. You can't just get to the top or near the top without knowing that you're good at it, because you wouldn't make it. You'd be bloody spat out, straight back out of the system. So
it's really tricky. I sort of always battle a little bit with imposter syndrome, and I know that we always train, and there was a really good saying the other day. We being a equestrian high performance group, do a lot of digital meetings, and we spoke with a guy that was a commando. I don't know the right words for this, but he was the leader of the soldiers who go in and do, undercover work. So they're basically blowing up heroin drug plants in Afghanistan. And he now mentors those other commandos. And he said, our motto is, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall back to our training. And so for me to go in and perform at my best, I have to feel really comfortable in that arena, and I have to go in there and go, yep, I can do this. I've practiced this a million times. I am good enough, and not go in there and think, oh God, they're better than me, or I'm a bit nervous, or, can I do this? So what you're saying, I completely, sort of resonate. That really resonates. But also, you doing sport, it's all about people having expectations, and whether they're intrinsic or external, there's a score you've got to get. Or, I think early on I battled a lot with, well, who am I if I'm not Amanda Ross equestrian? If when I don't ride a horse, what do I do? And that's still a bit now. I mean, I love doing what I do, but the life balance part, on one hand, you want to be good at this, you got to do it every day, and you got to put your heart and soul into it, and But then if you take it away, that's when, freaking crickets. So yeah. And for me, actually, one of the hardest things to do is to go and play average sport. Like, I remember saying, why would anyone want to play D-grade netball? Like, why would you bother doing that? Whereas now I'm like, so idiot. It's called team, and it's called there's no I in team. And actually it's really fun, and you can laugh at yourself if you fail. So my other thing is, if I fail, I had really struggled to laugh at myself, because that was basically like, you're a loser, you can't do this, everyone's better than you. So yeah, having a laugh, getting into the, at the moment I'm doing a group fitness thing, like a 8-week challenge, and I've got 2 other friends that are doing it. And it's great because although we can't see each other all the time, we're working on something together, and it's not run by the Australian Olympic Committee. It's not an elite thing, but the camaraderie is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
It sounds like connections, obviously.
Topic.
Sorry? What was that?
I said I kind of went slightly off topic, but there's an arrogance there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So,
okay, yeah.
Sorry. I said, for the elite sport, there's definitely that arrogance that you need to perform, but then also it's actually really fun just to stuff around and laugh at yourself and flop on the floor and, do other stuff that's not serious. You've got to have that balance.
I think that's really important as well. And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts I love AFL. So I'm listening to podcasts, AFL podcasts, and just hearing because you just see athletes and you're just like, oh, you're this serious person all the time. But that's you see them for 2 or 3 hours of their week, and then media coverage, like, that's not who they are at all. They're much more than that. And it's so good to hear them and just hear they have struggles. They have, anxiety battles, and, a lot of athletes are coming out now and owning that they meditate to help them look after themselves. And it's really good to see, because I guess the average folk like myself are going, oh, they're doing it, so I'll give it a crack. And, it's a backwards way of living in a way, but it's also reality. Like, we look up to people, and, what they do must help us as well. So thankfully a lot of it does, some of it doesn't. With that, go. Sorry, you go.
I was going to say just because they're a good sports person doesn't mean that they're a great human. Like, they can attain something, but half the time you concentrate so much on doing your sport that you miss out on sort of some of the other mental aspects or awarenesses. And that's another thing I found. I was just so narrow-minded about doing all these things that, I don't have kids. And even relating to kids, like now at 46, my best friend's kids, I love her kids, are great. But beforehand, I was like, no, I didn't relate. And therefore, I don't have the compassion and the empathy in a lot of ways as well. Yeah. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things now, is being way more aware of connection. I think the importance of connection.
So you mentioned connection. I know you do meditation. I know you love being outdoors and all of that. What else do you do to look after your mental health now that, what are the important things for you to keep it in check?
I sort of, at the beginning of Corona, went pretty heavy on the spirituality side, because when we were all given the pause, first Corona lockdown, everything, I was like, oh, I can finally actually put some time into all those things I've been curious about, but haven't really had the time to do it. So, man, I went hardcore, which I kind of got that spiritual side anyway. So it was just really letting the door wide open. Yeah. And then I realized that I actually need to get back to the real world, and have a look at some diary and dates and times, and not just be off, in woo-woo land having a fine old time. yeah, so the meditations, I'm now getting back into the Zoom meditations, which I can't wait till they're in person, because I like to be accountable and to get out and to, the accountability is great. I usually every morning I'll do a workout, and usually I would go to a gym, but obviously I do that at home. So my time is get up, probably spend half an hour before I do the workout, just, doing my housework, pottering around, whatever, waking up. And that bit of exercise in the morning for 45 minutes to an hour is the thing that sets me up for the day. And that's super important, both physically and mentally. And spending enough time, I've realized too, I'm sure everybody's found that in the first lockdown, having the time to ourselves, everyone's like, oh, this is so good. I really enjoy being on my own. In the second lockdown, and I'm like, find me some people, please. So I've tried to also be really aware of the balance of where I need connection and where I need some of the me time. And I don't run so much anymore because I'm a bit lame, but going out for, fast, brisk walks and being out in nature. And I listen to the podcast, especially the Woke Blokes podcast, and I've got some great podcasts that are similar to that vein that I really, really enjoy. And I think it's the learning part. I love learning. Yeah. A lot of psychology I find fascinating. So, I probably don't meditate as much. Nick tried to make me meditate. No, he didn't. I'm going to rephrase that. Nick suggested to me that meditating for an hour every morning would be very good for me. And he probably already knew that I'd get about 3 days into it and go, I can't do it. So I try and do some using like Headspace or waking up and do just short, sharp efforts. So short, sharp, mindful efforts. Yeah.
I think we're all at different capacities with all of that. I think he would love everyone to meditate for an hour a day. But yeah, maybe one day I will. But yeah, it's one of those things. I struggle to get the 40 minutes. I'm up at about 15 minutes now, where that's enough of a challenge. But so I'll start trying to ramp it up next week. A little bit more.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I did.
Yeah, go.
Was I going to say I went to one of the Vipassana retreats and lasted 3.5 days and came out ranting. And Nick's like, "You're going to get off your ivory tower at some point?" Because so the sitting still part for an hour now in Nick's meditations are like, I find that not a problem, but that's because someone tried to suggest I sat still for 3.5 days and that didn't work very well. So at least the hour feels really achievable now.
Yeah, well, you would say
dog.
my dogs are going crazy. Someone's here. So yeah, Nick, I'll do the Vipassana. I've been told about it for the last 3 or 4 years by multiple people, but I've never. I was like, oh, there's no way I can sit there for 10 days. There's just no way. But now I'm like, I reckon I could give it a go. So I'll see if I can get I'll aim to get 3.5 days first and then go from there. Although no, if Nick's watching this, no, I'm not making it a competition as I did with my slow walking. I'm not.
Oh, me too with the slow walking. Yeah.
We did it with Alicia and Emma, and I was like, all I was thinking was I can't lose. Like I had to be slower than them, and I wasn't. I was like, and no, I wasn't worried about the chair. Like, whereas a lot of people, they want to get to the chair. I'm like, no, I want to beat them.
Nah, yeah, I'll be here all day if I have to. Watch it. Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I guess. Have I got any other questions on that? I'm just reading a little bit of your stuff. There's probably not much more I want to ask today. I'll ask a couple of fun questions. What was it like going to the Sydney Olympics?
Pretty epic. Like, just the cheering is unbelievable, and the camaraderie is amazing. The Olympics is actually on a down note. It's a really weird experience because you're competing in a really unfamiliar setting. Like, you've got your basics. It's a little bit like I can imagine going in for battle and just having your stuff on your backpack. Yeah. So, if you prepare for a competition and you've got your horse track and your people and all your support crew, we don't have that. You've got different stuff. So you've really got to prepare to do it from a backpack. And my horse was a little bit lame. Like that means he had a little bit of an injury that we were nursing. So it was actually there was a lot of it that was highly stressful. I nearly didn't get there. But I tell most people, oh, it was amazing. Yeah. All the cheering was incredible. And there were a few things like watching Kathy Freeman's semi-final. And, we got to watch that from the winning post and stuff like that. That's incredible. Yeah.
Was it? So this is all coming from what I want to know. But I know other people would be interested as well. Who is the most famous person you met along the couple of weeks that excited you? Thorpe?
Oh, photos with Thorpe and Luke Lumley, who was on the basketball team. I was not very tall compared to him. The photos were quite funny. Yeah, got some good photos actually. Yeah, Thorpe was pretty cool. We did sit in the food hall. So one of the best things that I found is you sit in the food hall with your table of teammates, and you watch athletes come in the door, and you've got to guess what sport they play. So that was a pretty fun activity. And I sat next to Daniel Kowalski, swimmer. And had a chat with him, and he's lovely. So it's pretty cool. Seeing Thorpe was pretty cool. Yeah, I think everyone had a photo taken with Thorpe.
I can't remember who it was. There's someone on a recent podcast I was listening to who'd been to the Olympics. The swimmer that won, Kyle Chalmers. And he was just talking about who was coming into the food hall, and he said a lot of the bigger names didn't even come down for their food; it was all taken up to them. But he said Usain Bolt came down one day, and he said people just jumped off their chairs and basically were like launching at them. And he's like, I could see in that moment why they don't leave their room, and they literally stay put, because it was an absolute fanfare. But I think it's really interesting because, like, us as humans, we gravitate towards that. We think athletes are like on this pedestal. Well, I used to. I don't anymore because I know they're humans. I guess I see the psychology of it. But it's funny even seeing other athletes get starstruck by other athletes. They're like, oh my God. It's like, they'll be like, don't act weird around me. Like, we're both in the same room. Like,
absolutely.
I find that very, very interesting. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add today?
Not really. I don't think so. I think we chatted about lots of things. No, I think it's just that, like, I'm a big advocate for mental health, and like, not that we want to say I wish I'd done this earlier, but I really appreciate that a lot of schools are taking mindfulness on board now and teaching kids from the very beginning. And if I had my time again, I definitely would be. I see the value in it now, so that's why I'd be doing it. Maybe when I was younger, I wouldn't have seen the value, and I suppose you have to have a circumstance that creates that opportunity for you to seek the value. But I'm definitely a big advocate for getting kids started on that. I just think you guys are doing an amazing job, and keep doing it. We'll all spread the word as much as people want to hear it, I guess.
Thank you. And if anyone that is watching wants to shoot a question through, just email us at MyndFit, and we'll pass them on, and we'll get Amanda to answer them for you, because you've got a unique story that other people probably want to ask about. So I think that's part of the great reason why Nick, we look at all the ambassadors, they're all very different, and it's very unique. And I guess it just shows that to the core of the human being, we are all the same to a degree. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed the chat, and I do look forward to seeing you and meeting you in person rather than phone call and Zoom, and the next steps in person. So it'd be good. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Shane. It'd be 3-dimensional at some point soon.
It will be.
That's good. All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.